Okay, Nick Collier here, and boy did I screw up yesterday. I thought for sure I had filmed this process, part of the process. One of my more creative, inspirational ideas in how to deal with this, with these little steel blocks. So we're going to kind of walk you through the after effects of the whole process and kind of tell you where we went and what we did. So what I did, and I know we filmed this cutting the blocks off straight. So what I did is I just rotated this however many degrees I needed to rotate it, and then screwed a single screw into one side and got that thing locked down, dropped the saw on top of it, and split this this little wedge off. And you can see I've got, I don't know if you can see it down below. Well, yeah, there's a whole bunch of wedges down there anyhow. And ended up with roughing out this extra, oh, I don't know, amount without having to use my, mill. And then, of course, I came back in with the mill and trimmed up some edges. We're gonna go over there and do that right now. So, hang in there with me. Let's move over to the mill. And you saw me build this little fixture a while ago. And that came out real good. It's worked well, but I didn't want to have to go in and cut up the whole ball game on the mill. So I used the saw. I used the saw and kind of roughed out my surface, and it's pretty close, but it's not close enough, of course. So now we just have to make sure that these edges are nice and clean. Drop this down onto our jig. And get it in place. Oops. I'm going to move you back just a little bit. And let's turn this machine on and square up this edge. And we've got a reasonably flat surface, although not a clean surface. And this surface needs to be absolutely clean because it's the one that rubs up against the aluminum. And once this gets case hardened, then the aluminum is going to adjust to this. So I'm going to come back in. I've got one on order right now. It should be in the next few days. A shell mill that will be able to do one swipe and a nice, fresh, clean one. So we'll get a real fine surface. This top plate's going to sit on top of that ledge right there. I've already cut half of this. I'm going to cut the rest of it, and it's going to sit on that plate. Of course, these are going to be out a bit, and the wheel's going to be between them, and we're going to have 4 or 5 bolts in each one of these here along the way. So right now what I'm doing, I'm squaring up the edge, and then we're going to drill however many bolts we're going to need for that. And then this part here, can you see that? No, you can't see that. Let's go down here. And this part here, which we made a while back, is going to sit out on the edge, and then we drill a hole through the aluminum and drill a slot through the aluminum so that the cable can fit through here, go down, swing around the wheel, and go into the earth. So we got a bit of drilling to do, and you know, stick with me, we're going to have some fun. Take 2. All right, so we've cut this flat up here so that this piece here can go up on top of the unit. And of course this will be opened up, and the wheel is going to go inside of there. Once we get that set up, in fact it is set up, now we're going to drill probably 5 or 6 holes in each one of these plates, and then also through our platform, and get that thing to set up and lock down. And then once that's set up, this goes on top of that, and you can see that. And we're going to rotate this around so you can see, and we're going to drill a hole through that. Actually, this comes all the way out to the edge. We're going to drill a hole through that. We're going to cut a slot through this so that the cable can fit through these two units. Now what happens is that there's a whole nother piece that goes on top of this. It's probably, oh, I don't know, 18 inches tall. Maybe it's going to be, 16, 18 inches wide. And it's two hydraulic rams, 30-ton rams, that are going to sit on each side of this cable with these, you'll see these are the cable clamps or cable locks. And so what happens, and they're in at an angle, and so what happens is the rams pull the cable up and then release the cable by, because these are in slots, these things release, and then the ram comes back down and grabs another piece of cable and then pulls the cable up and comes down and grabs another piece of the cable and pulls it up, and so on and so forth, until they have pulled the new pipe through the old pipe, breaking up the old pipe as it goes. And then once the pipe is all the way through, then they disconnect this whole mess and they have a sewer pipe without having to dig it up. Okay, we're going to backtrack a little bit here because this wheel is too big. And I took some measurements, and I can take this little indent down 600 thousandths. That's going to give us just a little bit more room out at the end of the cable itself. So what we're going to do is turn the machine on, take this in 600 thousandths, and we're going to use the DRO to do that. Let's take it on up to the DRO there. There it is. And then run that in 600 thousandths, and then come back and reset these tapers to fit the 600,000. The taper is not important. All that's important is that it feeds the cable back into the slot, so it can be whatever angle is necessary. So let's turn this baby on and see what we can do. Okay, I just about made another bonehead move, but I saved it in time because I kept looking at that going, geez, I'm going awfully deep. And of course, I want to take 600 off, but if I take 600 by the DRO, I'm actually taking 1200. So I got to 4, and so we've taken 800 off, and there was a lot of leeway, so we're good. And now all I got to do is clean up this all this foil here, and we can go ahead and do the cut the taper that's going to give us a little bit smaller radius. I'll be back. Okay, so now we're going to cut the taper to get back down to that 600, or actually in this case 800. So Oh, I can see that it's going to be just a bit too sharp of an angle. So we're going to readjust our compound here. And as soon as I find my wrench, there we go. And we'll pull a few degrees off of that. We're at 30 now, so let's just take it to 20 and see what that does. Let's take it to 25. And as I said, the degrees doesn't really matter here because all we're doing is trying to get the cable to ride back into the groove. And I think let's spin it a little faster too. So what do we got here? Okay, we got it. One side. Now we're going to flip it and recut this edge, and we're all set up here, so all we have to do is get it flipped around and reset the edge, and we're set to go. Fucker do weigh a ton. And since we don't have a center hole on this side, I'm going to go ahead and put my valve center in and just push up against it. Just give it a little bit of extra oomph. Just enough to keep it from flopping around a bit. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we're pretty close. And I'm going to eyeball test it here as soon as I find my other scale by coming in from both sides. Hopefully you can see this, and seeing where our center drops. And it looks like we're just a little bit high on this side, which is pretty much where we want to be, because I want to come back in I'd say we got 10 or 15 more to take off. So let's take another run and then come back with a final finish cut, and we'll see what we're doing. Okay, so we've got this thing strapped down. I actually went in and separated them and put the wheel in between. I thought it might be better just to make sure that everything's lined up rather than try to trust my calculations, which are always suspect in the first place. But, so I know we have 750 thousandths here. That is a no-brainer. 760. 775. 775 is what it says. Now on the piece of metal it said 750, but maybe it's leaving us a little leeway to surface the metal. 775, half of that would be 350, and 35, 37 if we want to be exact, but we're not being exact. All we're doing now is finding center line. And notice I've scraped this side, and then I came over and scraped this side to confirm. There we go. We got ourselves a nice tight little line there. Now, I calculated yesterday with these little dots right here. And so what we'll do is we're going to come in and just measure our first one, because I know it's inch and a half, inch and a half, inch and a half, inch and a half, and so on. So we're going to be inch and a half right to there. We're going to bring our pointer right over to that point, and that'll be our starting. And then we'll just do that one and move over to here and do that one, and then move over here inch and a half and do that one, and so on and so forth, back and forth. Now what we're going to do in between is, once we get this hole located, we're going to set this thing up on top of the hole, and we're going to drill both of them at the same time, right on through, and that way we absolutely know that hole is for that position. And then once we get it drilled with just a little pilot hole, I'll come in and get a transfer pin, put it in there, get it to slide right down into that hole nice and tight, and then I can come over and do the rest of my holes without with it having an index, so that it can so that it doesn't slip around on me. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and go in and come up with that first hole. Now it turns out that we're far enough away here, high enough that I can't put my drill head in, so I have to use a collet, which is not bad. And we've got this surface trimmed in so that it's nice and square with the table. And I'm going to have to go get my cheater glasses for this one. Alright, there we go there. Now we need to bring the other direction in. And let's say we are centered. And at this point we take our DRO, bring it back to 0. Oops, we're going to leave that in there. And put a center in there. Oh, come on. And we're ready to start in. Now, at this point, we're totally located on that hole. We're going to bring this in, butt it up against that square edge right there. We know that that's a good square edge. We're going to square us up out here just as much as we can. We're just going to hang on to it for dear life. Once we get that first hole drilled all the way in, then we can come back and let's see. We're taking the drill bit out. We can come back and put the transfer punch in there, and that'll give us a location, and it'll also push us up against these two back edges and pretty much lock everything in. So I'm going to go get a drill bit that's going to actually work. Well, good morning, Nick Collier here. It's Sunday morning, and it stopped raining, and it's a little crisp out. It's a wonderful late autumn day. And we're going to continue with our project. I went into town yesterday and bought 10 of these 3/8 course bolts, 2 inches long. Well, this one is a 2 1/4 because they didn't have 10 2-inch ones. They had 8, so I got 2 extra long ones. I may have to thread them up a little bit, but probably not. I'll just cut a little bit off of the ends and square them up in that way. So we're going to drill our hole in the block, and then come back in and drill our hole in the plate, and that's a 5/16 hole, which is the threaded hole, and then come back and we'll drill a 3/8 hole in this block, and then thread the bottom part, and then we're going to come in, of course, and my brain is not working this morning. We're gonna cut a hole with a mill bit and bottom it out so that this bolt head gets below the top surface here. So that's what we're doing today, and who knows how long that's gonna take, but stick with us. We're gonna have some fun. Let's bring this down and over. And then we can come in a little closer. There we go. Okay, maybe a little bit further down. So right away, we'll drill the hole in this top plate. There we go. Now take that plate off and go ahead and just take my hole further down. And we've got a little over an inch. Let's take it a little further just in case. And since we're here, we'll go ahead and tap that 3/8/16. Okay, now let's find a collet that's going to fit it. There we go. Oops. Pull out the old one. Now, I don't want to tighten that collet too much because I know at some point or another this thing's going to spin, and I want it to be able to spin freely. Now we're going to slow this thing down to our slower speed, get a little bit of goop on there, and let her go. Now, we can bring it back out. And do the rest by hand. We got a nice straight hole going, so the rest by hand is no problem.